All right, good night, folks. You know what? I just had to chime in. This is my first video. It will be a short one. I wanted to chime in on the issue going on with the girls and Coach Vin Blaine. So let me just start off by saying this, right? JFF's current bylaws already contains provision which create a complaints and disciplinary committee. The committee is already empowered to hear complaints about disputes between coaches and players. However, players and coaches should not view that committee as their first source of recourse when a problem comes up. Both parties should exhaust their communications in camp or in the dressing room before lodging serious complaints, which could inadvertently affect the whole team. What I want to know is, did the girls ever try to communicate their alleged dissatisfaction with the coach before now? Was this letter their first attempt to address their concerns? Certainly, a leaked letter to the press warning that they would no longer represent the team if Coach Blaine stays appears to be overkill and does not strike me as a first stanza in a communication with the coach. Was an outsider made aware of the onset dissatisfaction? Did he or she see themselves as trying to help? Or did they take the opportunity to advance an existing grievance of their own? Did they do so at the expense of the girls and the team? What responsible adults, presumably older and more experienced than the girls, would pour gasoline on the fire and potentially bring the entire program down? Lots of names and rumors have been put out there. I can neither confirm nor deny those claims. Yet, the notion that it was done simply out of dislike, grudge, or spite, when it could cost the team and the nation so dearly, is maddening to me. Sometimes when you play with fire, it takes on a life of its own. Here I see a whole host of miscalculations and unfortunate accidents rather than a grand conspiracy that started years ago. Nevertheless, folks, it is what it is. Ideally, the committee should be hearing from both sides, the coach and the players, after which they should prepare a report and recommendation for the president and the board of directors. However, if a party fails to appear for a hearing, there may be a negative inference against that party. Failure to show may be read as an admission of the complaint, or it may indicate that the party is unwilling to take the other side seriously or acknowledge their own offending conduct. Therefore, I would urge the girls and Coach Blaine to meet separately with the committee to share their version of events and the issues which caused the letter to be written in the first place. The committee should try to determine who are the parties that constitute the outside force and what their role was in the dispute. I do not believe that the girls are children who are easily tricked or who do not understand the consequences of their actions. To do so is to belittle and ignore them and ensure that their concerns continue to go on without being dealt with. Players are generally subordinate to coaches when it comes to matters of discipline and play. However, coaches must take complaints seriously for the sake of the team. We should also remember that the girls, as young as they may be, some of them have accumulated more experience than people twice their age on their journey to professional football. So they must be looked at as adults and treated with due respect, however much one may disagree with their positions. All the girls signed contracts containing moral clauses which prohibits unseemly behavior that corrodes the brand or function of the team. The clause may not specify what types of behavior are prohibited, but players and coaches rely on protocol and performance readiness as a yardsticks to determine acceptable behavior. Still, we must remember that every institution and coach have their own set of protocols and norms, and what may be acceptable to one may not be acceptable to the other. Thus, it is important for the coach to lay down the ground rules early in the new relationship and for players to negotiate or, or to negotiate carve-outs based on need or permission given their past experiences. At the very least, open lines of communications are essential to any team's success. This begs the question, did the previous coach and staff have a different set of protocols which created expectations among the girls as to what would be acceptable behavior now? Does Coach Blaine have a different perception of what the protocol should be? Did he even have time to establish his own unique set of protocols, given the fact that he has been the coach for the team for such a short amount of time? It has been asserted that Coach Blaine failed to sanction a player who partied into the morning on match day. Should we fault him for utilizing his discretion to permit the player to take the field when her services would have been missed? Was a sanction following a match more appropriate because preventing her to play may have resulted in jeopardizing the team's progress in the campaign? These are hard questions, and I, for one, don't take them lightly. I don't take any self-righteous assertion that the coach lost his moral authority when he let the player play seriously. Let me finish by calling for mediation between the parties. No one takes this seriously, it seems, and many are intent on wallowing in the rumors and cross allegations. Mediators question the parties separately. They ask clarifying questions. The mediator proposes solutions, trying out scenarios and gain commitments, sometimes incremental commitments from both parties. The mediator goes back and forth between the parties during this time, clearing up misunderstandings and carrying information, proposals, and points of agreement. After identifying points of agreement between the parties, the mediator may pose a final agreement or course of conduct for the parties and urge them to accept it. I do not believe that the problems expressed in the letter or the problems voiced by Coach Blaine are intractable, or that allowing the girls or outsiders to set this precedent where a winning coach with so little time on the job can be fired should be allowed to stand. Such a thing may result in the Federation being unable to hire any serious coach in the future. How this is handled has implications for the current campaign and beyond. Rather than let hot heads prevail and substitute common nonsense for professional resolution, I urge the parties to give each other a chance. I end with a saying by a great man, some call him a prophet. He said, "Judge not before you judge yourself. Judge not if you're not ready for judgment. The road of life is rocky and you may stumble too. So remember, while you're pointing fingers, someone else is judging you." Good night.